Let's go. Oh, wait. Why no worky?
We're live. We're live.
We
it
are
says live.
Oh, I know why. I shut down. No, my my Go XLR no worky because I shut down the app. There you go. We're live. And the voice is back to I'd say 93.62%.
All right.
Which is great for me. I can pass the Homer Simpson's test, which is woohoo! If I can do that with the voice, which I haven't been able to for 3 weeks. He's just come out as because the chords just couldn't hit the pitch. And then I literally fell asleep for it's like almost 24 hours just right at the end of it all. And I think that was my body just shutting down for a proper repair.
Yeah.
It's like, let's get this stuff sorted. How you doing, Robert? Great to have you back, sir.
It's good to be back. This is one of the highlights of our week, doing these shows. I'm very excited. This is, of course, this might be the most famous of the regular episodes of The Prisoner.
I think so.
It really is, and watching it again, it's God. I love this episode. It's
so
again, every time I watch an episode, I think, wow, this is really good. I know we're leading into some episodes that are not everyone's favorites and a little off-brand episodes, but
still some doozies.
There's still some good ones coming, but this episode it's such a great episode, and your voice has a quality of Leo McKern's number 2 a little bit.
Oh, I take that as a massive compliment.
He's so theatrical and brash, and I love him, and I love this episode so much.
This is not just a great episode. This is a brilliantly written episode. So not only is it really clever, not only is it really well directed, it is so well written. The dialogue is sublime. Leo McKern and Patrick Mcguinn are just perfection on screen together. They were born. They were born to act with each other. These characters, and no more so than the unbelievable dripping chemistry that they have on camera. And you could have, when we get to Once Upon a Time, we get just 45 minutes of smacking against each other.
So good.
That's the penultimate episode, I'm afraid, folks. But this was the introduction of Leo McKern, and I really love the way that we have changed the order.
Yeah, I was going to say,
and I think this fits in, particularly after the little Easter egg from the general last week with the bust of number 2, Leo McKern's number 2, heralding who's to come next should things fail. I think this just fits in amazingly, and for a show that is predominantly done on the set on the actual MGN soundstage. It's just a strength of character about how good this episode is that is kind of brushed to the side.
Right.
The same with the general.
And there's a lot of the stage-bound exterior sets in this episode. Multi-leveled exterior sets.
Yes.
But
yes.
Water and sand. Here we are at the beach in our soundstage, and it works, but it doesn't bother me. But what I find really interesting, like as we know, like everybody watches this usually as the second episode. If you're gonna watch it on streaming or you're gonna get the home video version, this is always listed as the second episode of the show, and it's always bothered me until this rewatch, because it gives away that trope that did he really escape or not, and once you've seen this, then you suspect such more in episodes if you haven't seen this first. If you've seen this first, you always suspect this trope is going to play out, that none of this is real, there is no hope, the prisoner's just stuck in the village. And I'm glad we waited until many happy returns in this episode obviously have a certain kinship to one another, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that we've pushed this later, and I think it works beautifully. I love our order that we were watching these episodes in.
I think Many Happy Returns gets a little bit more credence from this episode, because when he's having his little tete-a-tete with number 2, and he's talking about escape, he says, "Oh no, I'm going to escape and come back." And he says, "What?" "I'm going to escape, come back, and wipe this place off the earth." And that, of course, is what his plan was in Many Happy Returns.
Right.
And, he escaped and he came back to identify where the village was. But unfortunately for him, his co-pilot was not who they seemed to be.
No.
And so Many Happy Returns has its very, it's very specific arc in which it's your birthday. We're going to give you a day in the real world.
Right. Right.
But then you're going to come back to us because we know how you think. So that was very specific. This one, of course, was number 6, again, being chivalrous. Number 6 being moral. Number 6 doing what he believed was the right thing. And even compromising with the village. But of course, it's those sort of sacrifices that he does which bite him the hardest.
Yeah.
Love this episode.
It's so fantastic. And I love Nadia.
Yes.
She's a great guest star, and she does a really good job at playing vulnerable. And I really love, like, when this episode begins and she's sort of brought in, and I love when there's that moment where she wakes up and kind of comes out of her apartment for the first time. Now we've seen we see number 2 and number 6 watch the helicopter come in. We see Nadia taken off the helicopter, and it's interesting because you imagine that's the same predicament. That's exactly what it looked like when number 6 showed up.
Yes,
drugged and out of it.
They just drug him, get on the helicopter,
flown
bring him in. Yeah,
and it's interesting to watch number 6 observe this process.
Yes,
and have a conversation with number 2 about it as it's like in real time.
Yeah, we got for the first time we have a flip reverse.
Yeah,
we have number 6 watching a new arrival and the process with number 2, but he's almost being let in. He's been let in to the behind the scenes with the village. And number 2 is showing how things operate. This is how we bring you in. This is how we create the facsimile. This is a facsimile of her bedroom. These are the things that we do. We make sure that you're off kilter. We make sure that you are confused. We go through the same process, calling her up. Come to me, my dear.
Even
Number
the words
2,
are the same.
The green
dome.
dome. Exactly. It's a process. And so I find that particularly interesting because later on, of course, number 2 talks about number 6, the egomania. Because in their eyes, he was part of the process.
Yeah.
And in number 6's eyes, because he's an individual, he takes it very personally. And so everything that they do is very personal. But we know that it is a little bit more personal for number 6 because for his arrival, they cleared the village. They made sure there was only the shopkeepers, but no members. So just the shopkeepers who are trained in the way that they deal with people, the taxi drivers who are trained in the way that they deal with people, but any of the villagers who may not have turned over to the side of the wardens, they wouldn't have had any opportunity to do what number 6 had the opportunity to do. However, number 6, due to his cynicism, decides to play almost as a warden to start with. And I like that. He was very standoffish.
I liked it too. I mean, it's what's interesting is the relationship number 6 has with Leo McKern's number 2 seems to go back a long way, even though it doesn't.
No,
but it seems like they're more simpatico than any of the number 2s previous to this. I mean, it's interesting.
I
They
feel
just
as if McKern's number two's been at the village for a couple of weeks.
and this episode, this episode takes place over at least a 6-week period of time because
Yes.
they're leading up to and longer because they're
Mhm.
leading up to the art exhibition.
The art exhibition, yes.
And then we've got 6 weeks. So there's a long period of time covered in this prisoner episode. There's been longer periods of time.
Hospital stuff, and then we have the rehabilitation stuff. So yeah, there is a very specific period of time. And this is why, again, this should never be the second episode, because McGinn does say at one point to number 6, you've been here for months.
Right.
Whereas in Dance of the Dead, which then I think was in episode 9, maybe 7, of the original viewing, he's brand new to the village.
Right, exactly.
So when we shifted it into our order, shall we say, I think this makes so much more sense.
So much more sense, and it even Patrick Mcguinn, his performance, like you said, the cynicism and the way he plays it, like he's totally playing the game. He's got this like bemused sense to him, like, okay, we can play all the games you want here if that's what you want to do. And I'll let me ask you something though. Do you think that the prisoner and Nadia, do you think they ever hooked up in this episode? Because you got because
there's an interesting behind the scenes story about this.
Oh,
because in the scene where he goes outside onto his veranda and takes the radio so that the audio devices can't hear them talking, McGuinn's character was meant to kiss her. McGuinn refused to kiss her, as he did with his female co-stars. He was very against that sort of fraternization, even if it was part of the story. So he was actually meant to lean in and kiss her during that scene, which he refused to do. So he ends up just sort of playing with her hair for a little bit and then pulling back, because McGuinn apparently was exceedingly difficult to deal with as a female on a prisoner. So character-wise, it's so difficult to tell because he wouldn't do what the character was meant to do.
right. Okay.
So we had a McGuinn intervention here.
That's interesting because I've always wondered, like, is there fraternization because there's cameras everywhere?
Yeah.
Back in the late 60s, what is this? It's live view porn. Come to Chatterbait with the prisoner.
Yeah.
I mean, would anybody do that? And what would be protocol? Like,
but there are couples in the village, and
I know.
Surely they have to enact their carnal desires unless they're drugged every night. But no, there is a desire between them. But I felt that my personal feeling through the episode is McGuinn's desire was more to escape.
Right.
And her desire, as we saw, was more romantic. But obviously there's more to it than that, as we'll get on to later.
Yes.
But I didn't feel that there was a sexual attraction from number 6.
Yeah, I didn't know, just because I didn't feel that. I mean, the Prisoner might be the most unromantic television show ever made.
Yes.
there is no romance because number 6 is always business.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I think that's fine. But I just wondered, because they do have, over the period of time, they do develop a rapport, and they do have a relationship, and I just wondered if you thought it was at least insinuated, and I honestly don't think it was. I kept looking for it specifically. I'm like, are they going to tip off that the two of them? And no, I didn't feel that there was any. Even though 6 weeks had gone by, it was all business with number 6. Always
I think so.
business, because at this point he's so, especially watching Chimes of Big Ben now, as we watched it, he's so aware of their tactics.
Yes.
And he's never, like, even though he buys into it, I don't know if he's ever, if he ever truly believes what's going on.
I think it's just he's so fixated on escape.
Right.
I think he's so single-minded with how he wants to operate. We've seen it with virtually every episode, unless it's an episode where he's almost playing truant. He's trying to formulate some sort of escape plan.
Yeah.
Some sort of cog in the machine. I think he saw Natalia as a tool to be used. I don't think that means he didn't have any feelings, because he doesn't technically lie to her, but there is some information which is given in this episode, which is interesting, because she does say to him at one point when in the crate, she says, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And he's like, "No," which is technically true. And then later on, she says, "Do you have a fiance?" And he doesn't answer that question. In "Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling," he has a fiance.
Yeah.
So he doesn't answer that question, which makes, from a very superficial point, you could just palm it off as shush woman, I'm trying to sleep. But I think from the prisoner perspective, he won't answer it because he won't lie to her. And I think he understands her feelings towards him, or at least what he believes are her feelings towards him, and so doesn't want to hurt her, because they are going to escape. She's going to defect, essentially, to the west, and she has to have his trust, and he understands that trust must be there. But I do find it very interesting that the continuity remains intact, and it's brilliant.
Another thing I really like is the conversation he has at the beginning with his chess partner, the general.
Yes.
And the general, what army? What regiment? Like, where are you, and what's happening? And give me some information. And you get this idea that they play chess a lot, but maybe this has come up. He keeps asking the general this question, and it never gets answered. And I there's a lot of that in this episode. There's a lot of these witty asides that number 6 is throwing out. He's asking people questions, even though he knows he's never going to get an answer.
Oh yeah. He's reflecting back to them.
And there's a great moment where when he first meets her, and "Be seeing you, is that a salute?" And he says, "Yes, it is."
Yes, it is.
It is a salute. It's absolutely, "Be seeing you" is absolutely a salute. Yes. And I love that it's absolutely identified, by name, that it is a salute. And I love that. I love that. This is, oh God, I love this episode. So let's just put some bits together, shall we? Yeah. Yes.
Now we've kind of have an overall impression. Let's start to put all these pieces so we can get a full understanding of what's going on. So it starts off with number 6 waking up. He's I would say pottering. He's not. He's stomping around his house.
Well, number 2 says even when he puts his bathrobe on, he does so as if he's being defiant.
An act of defiance.
An act of defiance. I love, and indeed it is, because even he knows he's being watched.
Putting on his robe is an act of defiance. Yes, and he's trying to make boiled eggs, and you got this bloody awful music harping on. So he takes the radio, sticks it in the fridge so it can't make any noise. And Liam Mcguinn, of course, is number 2, is watching all this. It's just like fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just fascinating. Makes his eggs, gets dressed, goes out, plays chess with the general. The colonel? Is it the colonel or the general?
The general.
Plays with the general.
Number 2 calls him general.
Yeah. And he's wearing a general's hat. And then, of course, they have a little bit of banter because, if I had you in my regiment, number 6, I'd whip you into shape. You're a fool for not settling in. And he's like, which regiment? What army? And he doesn't answer those questions. And you feel as if, not necessarily that the general's a bad person, but you feel as if, do you think they've been extracted from him? Because this guy clearly gave in. He gave up everything
Yeah,
and
right.
he was allowed to retire and live out his years here. But has it all been removed from him?
And he wants number 6 to just like, come on, just come over to my side. We'll have a nice life together. You know, we'll play chess and live here, and it's fine. He's the general is completely capitulated and given himself over to whatever.
And then number 2 comes along. We see the arrival of the helicopter. I love to see the helicopter. Always love to see the helicopter.
I do too.
And then we have a beautiful young, what turns to be Eastern European, shall we just say? Because again, shrug. Eastern European woman gets taken off. Nadia, and she will be referred to as Nadia, as well as number 8, but Nadia for the most part. She refuses to be known by her number. She needs to be known by her name. She has a very kindred attitude as number 6. She's taken to her house. Number 2 invites number 6 to see the process. And then we see her waking up in her bed, and number 2 is giving it all. She's waking up. It's facsimile of a room. This is the bit I love. And she like walks past the window, and then suddenly is like double take and looks out, because you see the village as opposed to what you would expect to see out of your window. And Liam McGuinn's relishing this. He's barely laughing at this horrible situation that she's in. And this is sadistic stuff. Number 6 is remaining very calm, very quiet. They have a wonderful exchange with the cup of tea, where he says, "Number 6, how many sugars do you have? I can't remember if it's 1 or 2." And he's like, "Why don't you look in the file?" It's like, "Well, it would save time if you just told me." And he refuses to tell him, because he knows once you start answering one question, it will lead to answering another question.
Absolutely.
And another question. And that's how Leo McGuinn says he wants to break number 6, and says it to him. When you tell us why you resign, everything else will follow. So this fits into, what I've always maintained, is that the why did you resign has always been just a gateway to get to the proper stuff.
Absolutely. And after he looks into the file and finds out he takes no sugar.
No sugar.
I love at the end of their exchange, number 6 takes 3 sugar cubes and just puts it in his tea. And it's so great. I mean, it's such a great FU moment, Yeah,
it's all one-upsmanship. It's all gamesmanship, this. Even though number 2 is being polite, even though number 6 is being polite, the game, as Sherlock Holmes would say, the game is afoot. It's always afoot.
Always.
From the moment he wakes up and becomes lucid, to the moment that he may or may not go to sleep of his own volition, it is afoot. It is all a game.
I mean, can you imagine if you were number 6, whenever you wake up in the morning, you'll never know whether or not you've been drugged, you've been hauled away some night for conditioning somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that this was the first time I watched this episode, and I really started thinking about, if I was number 6, what would it be like for me to wake up in the morning? Because you would always question your dreams, you would question the night before, and you will never know. You'll just
how much time has passed since I went to bed?
Yeah, you never know. I mean, it'd be like a UFO abductee who believes they're an abductee. Yeah, you just will never know. Like, did they take me tonight? And that was something that I never really thought about before when I was watching The Prisoner until yesterday, watching the episode again and thinking like, wow, what that must be like. No wonder he was defiant in the morning, the way he puts on his bathrobe, because he just never know. You never know what has been done to him, and he doesn't know either. So he's even defiant as soon as he wakes up in the morning. That's why he is. He's defiant. Because he doesn't know what happened to him the night before, nor will he ever.
No, he's got to keep the fight. Got to keep the fight going. You got to wake up fighting. You got to go to bed fighting.
And that's why I love when Leo McKern's like defiant, putting on that bathrobe. This was the first time I ever thought, well, of course he's defiant in the morning, because he just never knew. He never knows what happened to him when he was sleeping.
But even when they're going to the gamesmanship, Leo McKern's just like, you'll come back to me whimpering.
Yeah.
You'll come back whimpering to tell me your deepest, darkest nightmares. You'll come back whimpering. And even when he does the sugars and then walks off, Leo McKern just, kind of reclines back. He's just like,
and that's where a commercial would go normally.
Yes.
And right on the what a great outro for the commercial, whimpering. The way he says it, so great.
But Leo McKern was just perfection.
So good.
So number 2 goes back home because number 6 goes back home. Sorry, because number 2's invited number 8 to the Green Dome. Green Dome, my dear. And then this is where number 6 and number 8, Nadia, meet. And she's, where is this place? And he's just like, the village.
He's talking just like a warden now.
Yes, it's just absolutely 100% like a warden now. Doesn't trust her. Doesn't want to give anything away. Doesn't know how long she'll be here. Doesn't want to know right now. Just you get on with your shit. I'm going to get on with my shit. And then, we have the salute part. Was that a salute? Oh, yes, that was a salute. And then could you direct me to number 2, the Green Dome? It's just like, yeah, just across the square, up the steps, Green Dome, takes her there, leaves her to it. And then the next time we see it's nighttime. So, a considerable amount of time has passed. But number 6 had a fair debriefing himself. And we don't know what time it was anyway when she arrived.
Right.
And he invites her in for a nightcap, a drink. And then he starts to essentially question her himself. To which, starts off all polite.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, she's just like, look, I've been interrogated enough for one day. Thank you. And then storms off and leaves him. And he's just kind of nonplussed by it all still, sort of like,
yeah, right. That's it. Yeah, okay. I get it.
Yeah. All right. That's how you want to, that's how you want to play this. Then we get the great I know it's the soundstage beach, which is such a shame because if this was filmed at Port Merrin, I think it just would have made the scene perfection.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because when you are seeing a sand and the beach and the light just isn't. You can't make the light look the same.
No.
And it would have been nice to have like a crane shot of the beach with number 2 walking across with, how they have everybody hanging out on the beach. It would have been great to have that one shot, but it's all right. It doesn't detract.
Yeah, because they got some beach shots with the body doubles.
Sure.
Which comes into play later. But this is another stonking scene with Mcguinn and McKern. And this is where McKern says, you've been here for months. You're a lifer. And then number 6 is just like, well, you're just as much as prisoner as me. And then number 2 is just like, I know, but I don't care. I don't care whose side I'm on. I don't care which, who runs the village. I've got a job. I can do my job. I have some freedom. You don't. So I might be locked to them until I die, but I can go out and do things. You can't, and you never will, because of your defiance and your attitude and your nature. And it's just a great little scene with them. Again, it's always, as soon as they meet, it's like 2 rams. They just batter against each other.
More so than any of the, it's more, you absolutely feel that it's much more personal between the 2 of them, because usually number 6 is distanced personally from the number 2s. The number 2s are very much like number 6 is their class project. But with Leo McKern, it's almost like they had something happen in the outside world between them, or they knew, maybe number 6 didn't know Leo McCurn, but Leo McCurn's number 2 did know number 6. Maybe number 6 was pulling some job and he didn't even know that Leo McCurn was involved, but Leo McCurn knows who number 6 is. I always felt that way.
Well, we know where McCurn's job is in Fallout.
Right.
And
but obviously you don't know that now.
No, but of course, this is the episode where we, I think, technically find out who runs the village.
Well,
so there's a very interesting element with that. So yeah, they just lock horns, and when they're locking horns and doing their what nowadays would be a very testosterone driven scene, this one is a battle of wills, because these are two very intelligent men, and their battle is all here, not here. McCurn isn't a fighter. He's a fighter here. He will mentally break you. He'll mentally destroy you. So
and he's having a good time too.
Oh yes,
you know, as other number 2s get frustrated or worried, or you know, they're you feel like Leo McCurn he loves this. He loves being number 2. He doesn't feel any pressure about it. He just loves it.
I think, yeah, and I think the reason is this guy is supremely confident in his own ability. And even the outcome of this episode, he's won.
Right.
He's absolutely won. And it was just something out of his hands, which stopped it from being an absolute, complete and total victory. So number 2 definitely gets the huge win in this one, which we'll discuss later. But yeah, I think he's so supremely confident in his own ability. I think this is a person who probably breaks people for sport. He sees number 6 as nothing more than a challenge, and one that he relishes. And Nadia, of course, is the new entry, and therefore she's fresh meat. So this guy's got a lot to be excited about when he's in the village, because literally he's in his absolute element here. He is number 2. He is the chairman. He is the supreme ruler of the village here. But while they're doing all this, Nadia is dicking about on the beach, and then decides to go off for a little bit of a swim. So she goes off, and then they finish their conversation. The watcher, when number 2 gets back, says she's still swimming.
Right.
Like, how far do we have visual? Up
and then
to
they
2
look
miles, and then we have to go to radar.
They look into their file. Oh, she's an Olympic clout swimmer. Oh,
she's an Olympic swimmer. Okay.
Oops.
He's like, oh, well, orange alert. It's just a casual way which he says it. Oh, well, orange alert. And then Rover comes roaring out of the sea, sprints off after her. We get the death of Nadia. This is the weird thing with Rover, of course.
Right.
We get the sort of the way that it almost puts you in some sort of catatonic state. And then we get
she does look dead when Rover drags her up onto the beach with his 2 little rovers, you know, the support rovers that tend to show up when somebody's in the water. But they drag her on, and she looks dead. And you know, the technicians come in, please, you know, stand aside.
Don't touch her. Yeah. And then they take her away, and the next thing we know, it's number 2's calling number 6 in his apartment. He's like, number 6, quick, come to the hospital with me. Number 6 like, all right. Okay, I'll play, you know, I'm happy to play your games to see what you've got in store. So he goes off to the hospital. Nadia's in the hospital, and number 2 has contrived another trap for her. They're trying to get her to say why she tried to escape. Were you trying to escape? Were you trying to kill yourself? Were you trying to commit suicide? And she's in this room. Clearly looks like hot lights are on her. There's a floor where there's a current running through every 4 seconds. and then it stops for 4 seconds. And Mcguinn explains to number 6 that it only takes 3 seconds to get to the door. So we're seeing if she can work this one out. And there's a bowl of water, so she can put the water on the ground, and she sees when it sparks because the current goes through, and then she can count. And then number 2 is just like, oh, I think she's worked this one out. So she runs to the door and then stops and then screams, kill me, because she's realized this could be a way out. Mcguinn quickly stops the experiment.
And at that moment, he actually is concerned. Like, you know, it's not like, oh, turn it off. He's like, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. Like she might have died. Like he's actually really concerned.
Well, I mean, we're gonna have to break the mystery now. As you would have done your homework, people. So we're gonna break the mystery of the episode right now. Nadia, of course, is working for them.
Mm-hmm.
But because, you know, I like to create the backstory, you know, the backgrounds, as I've said, and I've created them. My sort of understanding of this relationship was we're going to bring Nadia in. And this is number 2's idea. I'm going to bring Nadia in, but she's going to be working off her own volition. Her job is to make contact and gain the trust of number 6, and I will try and expedite that as much as possible. But she needs to play the game, and I need to be aware of the game she's playing.
Right. Yeah.
So it looks genuine. So she's putting a lot of trust in Leo McKern's number 2, and he's putting a lot of trust in her. So I think there's games been played everywhere here.
Yeah, but it had to have been. I mean, you know, they have to know that because if Leo Mcguinn ever tipped off, once this went on, everybody's improvising, but they are going to go with the flow. They know what's happening. But yeah, like you said, if they didn't turn off that electricity, I think she would have been killed.
Yes,
you know, and she would have died because
and I think he didn't anticipate her just trying to swim out. And I think that when you think about it in those ways as well, it makes when he says, oh well, orange alert, so casually work because he knows she's his.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, there's nothing I can do. She's nearly out of visual range. The technical process now, it's an orange alert. She gets out of range, it's a red alert. She's a mile in, it's a yellow alert. She's in orange alert territory. Oh, well, orange alert.
Well, yeah, and also what's interesting is she does admit, too, later to number 6 that she knows about the village. Yeah, I read it in a thing. You know, I read it in a Brit. And so I think, indeed, she's correct. She knows all about the village.
Yes.
So when she's swimming out there, she knows exactly what's going to happen to her. And that was part of her ploy, you know. Yes. And when she knew she was being watched, she's going to go do this. And it worked out quite well. Yeah, she's playing a game for both number 2 and number 6. Mm. So and number 2 is aware. So number 2 has to be on his toes with her as much as him. Because the only way to truly gain number 6's trust is to be as genuine as you possibly can. Absolutely.
And to be as genuine as you possibly can, there has to be stakes. She creates the stakes. Essentially, Nadia, I mean, you could call her psychotic, but a sociopath. But she is incredibly committed to her job. She's incredibly committed to the ideal of the village. And number 6 and number 2 do discuss the ideology of the village. And Mcguinn is an ideology. You know, he's an ideologue.
Yeah,
he believes. And this is really interesting because you feel with most of the number 2s, virtually all of them, apart from Mcguinn, they're doing a job. But McKern's got religion. This guy's got a belief. And,
yes, he does.
His belief is that the village is a blueprint for a world order. This is how the world should be.
Right.
You know?
And he straight up says that.
Yes.
I mean, and it's great. Straight up says it.
But it's great that one of these number 2s again, I think this is why McGuinn's number 2 is so revered as well. Because I think McGuinn's number 2 gets the most. I mean, he gets 3 episodes, but he gets the most, building up. He gets the most work done to him as a character. And when you express an ideology as a number 2, as opposed to being a scared, chairman who's under the thumb of number 1, like Colin Gordon's number 2 and many other, and Patrick Cargill's number 2, which we'll get to maybe next week. This guy doesn't. This guy is a believer. So this guy, he's, we know that he's in on the way the village operates, but this guy believes.
Yeah.
So when number 1 calls him up and it's like, fly. When number 1 calls him up, it's just like, we need this. He's just like, yes, number 1. Yeah, this is how we go. So it's great that that this number 2 has more about them. And so this is why this episode has so much stakes. There's so much at stake here, because Nadia, to number 2, he's got to pretend like Nadia is as much of a prisoner as number 6. And Nadia has got to pretend that she is as much a prisoner as number 6. But a prisoner with the same ideology as number 6. So there's that great connection there. This is where number 6 in the hospital then turns around and says, all right, I'll do a deal with you. Leave her alone. And he gets quite mad. He's like, leave her alone. He gets up and he's like, I'll conform. And then number 2, his eyes lighting up. It's like, so easy, a woman. So easy. Was it so easy as that? And he's just like, no. He's just like, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'll just fit in to the village. I'll make something for your craft show in a few weeks. And he's like, so you're telling me if I give the girl to you and leave her alone, you'll do some woodwork for me? And he's like, yeah. And he just barely laughs. He's just like, oh. And he gets his little dictaphone out. He's just like, number 6's egomania, if anything, since his arrival at the village, has increased.
Well, what I love about it is in a way, number 6 it appears on the outside to be giving them something, and he's never given them anything before.
No.
And it's hence number 2's delight. And I think it's great because as an audience member, when you're watching this, and again, I've been trying to watch these episodes thinking about what I see in them now as opposed to things I hadn't recognized before. And what I love about this is that it isn't him giving it at all. I mean, number 6 already has a plan that's formulated. He knows exactly what he's going to do. And it just before, when I was watching it, now I'm much more aware of the brinksmanship between number 6 and number 2 and how it never lets up. And I think now I'm just more aware of it as an adult, maybe, that I can see these things happening more and more. I just appreciate, again, the writing and the scripting and the performing and more than I ever have. And their relationship is so great because Leo McGuinn really does believe for a moment that he's achieved a bit of a victory. Even
he has, though. He technically has.
Well, but number 6 knows what he's going to make.
But but he's done a superficial victory where they both realize that number 6 has made a compromise.
Well, that's true, but
he hasn't got anything substantial, but he's got his in, and that's what he wanted. He's got his in. His mole is now with number 6.
Well, that's true. That is true. Absolutely. So
he can pretend that it's just like you've compromised, but really he's just like, no, I've got you because you have fallen for the trap. You're now in on, you now believe she's one of you.
That's true. Yeah, no, that's absolutely, you're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right about it. I just like that getting him to because there could have been other ways. He didn't have to enter the competition, and that's, I just love number two's delight about this. But you're absolutely right. He in entering the competition, he sees number six as that's a victory because Nadia is in.
Nadia is in. Yeah, she's got in the circle. She's got through the cynicism.
Yeah.
She's got through the defenses, and it's now her. It's now up to her to craft the escape. Because she knows the
now let me ask you something.
The
because we've now seen women often play a part in breaking number six's will. We saw it earlier in Many Happy Returns. Do you think, and obviously we know in real life that Patrick Mcguinn did not treat women well when they were actually making these episodes. Do you think that Patrick Mcguinn was just a complete misogynist? That he just didn't like, I mean, in real life, that Mcguinn as a man just was not, I don't know much about his personal life. So I don't
he was
know
a very staunch Catholic, wasn't he?
Yes.
And I think that Catholicism had a sort of bearing on how he dealt with women. Because to him, it would be one wife, one,
Sure.
And so even though he was an actor, I think he would have potentially seen the fraternization as a potential compromise of that. I'm spitballing here, obviously.
Sure, no, absolutely. I'm just curious because he frequently, these women wind up in these duplicitous situations. We've seen, Mrs. Butterworth, and then we've seen another number two, a female number two, and then now Nadia. I mean, these women, they're up to no good all the time.
I wouldn't say misogynist though, because a misogynist is a person who hates women.
That's true.
And I think Mcguinn has a very high respect because these characters are great characters.
They are great characters.
They're not poorly written. They're not superficial. They are clever. They are devious, sure, but they're intelligent, and they can compete just as much as a man. So I don't think he's a misogynist. He might be.
No, you're probably right about that. I mean,
a little bit sexist, sure.
Yes, because
but
the characters,
that's a product of its time.
Yeah, they are portrayed. It's interesting too. I always think about, because this ran concurrently with Star Trek, a lot of people make the mistake of saying that, there's a lot of maybe sexism in the original series. But if you think about the women that Captain Kirk encountered, they were frequently very smart, capable people, scientists, lawyers. There were very few that were. There's two that come to mind: Shauna the drill thrall and the slave girl that the proconsul gives to Kirk in Bread and Circuses. As he says in the episode, they threw me a few curves, literally. Yes. But the same is true here. I mean, the women that are portrayed, they are capable and smart and intelligent, but they always screw him over in the end. Not the way he probably would want to be either. And I it's a recurring theme in the show.
But you have to balance it with how the men,
which is true. Everybody in this show is out to get him.
Everyone screws him over,
right?
So this is an equal opportunity screwing over of number six,
right?
But I do think, I definitely do think he had some sort of, whether it be through Catholicism, I do think he does have some sort of at least sexist attitude, maybe chauvinistic.
That brings up another. Yeah, but that does bring up something else that I never really considered. That there is there in fact a religious or spiritual element to number six's defiance? Could that be defined in somehow religious terms, in terms of what he's doing in a way? And I never, until you brought up Catholicism, I never thought of it this way. But I mean, speaking metaphorically, of course, that number six is not giving in to temptation.
Sure.
That a lot of this is, maybe it's not overt, but I think definitely as a staunch Catholic, a lot of this is about him adhering and sticking up for his own beliefs.
Christ in the wilderness.
Absolutely. And while I've never I should read up. I'm sure someone's written about the religious or the
Hmm.
the implications of being. He's very pious. I mean,
Yes.
number 6 is a very pious man, and I've never really considered that in terms of the show, but in a way, this is an interesting. This whole episode is an interesting example of that because Leo McKern is very Mephistopheles like in this episode. I mean, more so than anything, he even the way his facial hair and his beard coming to a point, and I mean, maybe there's a reading of this episode that could be like the Last Temptation of Christ or something. Maybe.
Sure.
I never thought of it that way before.
It's an interesting avenue for to kind of look and explore. Because of the thing, what I interpret to be the themes of the prison, I've never actually considered the religious aspect of it.
No, neither have I. It's literally, as we've been on, it just popped into my head that I've never really thought about it from that perspective. But I'm sure
So
looking
is Nadia
into
Mary Magdalene?
I don't know. I maybe.
Or is number 6 John the Baptist and not Christ?
Very, very possibly. I mean, I think that's there's an interesting aspect to that. Or
this could this is something I could sit with you and talk about for a while.
Exactly.
God, yeah.
I mean, is the village purgatory?
Yes.
You know, and number 6 is he's trying to get into heaven.
Is this Dante's Inferno? It
is the Divine Comedy after all.
Wow.
But
yeah.
Now I want to go do my reading. Somebody somewhere has to.
Yeah.
The religious implications in the prisoner, and I'm sure by the time we get to, the end to Fallout, there's some kind of unbelievable religious symbolism that has so far eluded me in my analysis of this show.
That's an interesting one, though. Interesting one. But in the meantime, number 2 now pulls back. He pulls back. His job was to try and get number 6 to trust Nadia. He's accomplished that. He now backs off and lets Nadia do her job, which is to contrive an escape with number 6 back to London. She wants to hear the chimes of Big Bill. It's Big Ben. So she starts to refer to number 6 as Big Bill from here on in. Or he corrects it. He calls himself Big. She calls him Big Ben, and he says Big Bill, don't you mean?
Yeah.
So that becomes her pet name, which again symbolizes certainly intimacy when you got pet names.
Yeah.
So whether they did or they didn't, it's so difficult with McGuinn's own personal, beliefs, shall we say? So he goes into the woods, and he's got his own tools, which he's forged.
Yeah.
And he starts chopping down trees and building an abstract for the Arts and Crafts Festival. An abstract which looks immediately like a boat.
He's pretty fast. He's a pretty fast. He certainly hollows out that tree pretty quickly.
But we don't know we don't know the time scales.
Sure. I mean, we know it's 6 weeks, so it literally could have taken. Obviously, the work took weeks.
Yes.
So,
but we gotta montage this up,
Yeah.
And we have this great music. Dun, 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 dun.
There's great music in this episode. There's a great.
Yeah, it's so good. Because it's kind of got that sort of impending.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. It's building up. Something's happening. It's got that great kind of rhythm to it and beat to it. So he crafts these pieces for his exhibition. Number 8 isn't participating, but we see footage of them together constantly in each other's apartment. Well, her in his apartment. They seem to be playing house. She's making breakfast for him. He's eating breakfast. He's accepting breakfast. He's doing the bisingu for some reason. Salute at her. And I think it's just meant to symbolize the trust of the relationship coming together.
Sure.
And then we have the festival itself, where number 2 says, the critics are, do you want a question or 2 answered about your piece, if that's all right? So you go into the festival to answer these critics, and you just see everything is just number 2.
Right.
Every single thing is number 2. The chess set that the general made, the king's number 2, paintings, sculptures, everything number 2, imagery of number 2, and then you have this boat in 3 pieces by number 6. And the great thing about the art critics is they were art critics. They didn't try and make them wardens and staunch. They were just complete airy-fairy, pretentious art critics sort of thing. And, oh, we noticed that you named this Escape. Why would you name this Escape? And he's explaining his piece. What does this symbolize? A church door. It's so pompous and it's correct first time. He'll go along with anything right now.
No, it's great. I mean,
and then the end question was the best though, because she says, just one more question. Was it? Where's number 2?
Well, also, I do love the sort of the skewering of the idea of skewering art. I mean, he gets that in because it's I'm sure that Patrick Mcguinn in his own life is, he's a learned, very smart man, and he probably just looks down upon art critics. I mean, in his real life, thinking they're completely full of shit, and this was sort of a nice little, it came out of nowhere, just a nice little dig at the whole art establishment who deems what art worthy. It's great. I love it.
And he wins the overall prize. There are different age categories. Number 38 wins the over 60s. Poor dear. She looked like she was 2 days away from popping the clogs. I think she lived like another 2 or 3 years, maybe even more. I don't think she was quite as old as she looks. Well, I think she's about 80 or so in that. And number 6 is very clever because number 38 created this beautiful tapestry of Leo McKern. And he's just like, well, there's the sail from her ship. So he says, I don't deserve this. I think number 38 was way better. But I can't go against the decision. So I will give my 2,000 credits to number 38 and purchase her tapestry of number 2 to hang in my house. And everyone's like, oh.
That's a lot of non-alcoholic whiskey and vodka, as we find out in this episode.
So the next thing we know, I don't think it's late at night. I think it's like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., where it's still dark, but probably at the time when they're changing shifts. Maybe they've worked out when shifts change.
Sure. So
that they have the opportunities to sneak and grab a few things. Number 6, as we know, is well-versed in jumping out at night and escaping the cameras. And they break into the art exhibition and they take the ship out, the boat out, which he's crafted, and they start putting it all together. They get the tarpaulin to tie up the base. They have the pieces which come together for the sail, and then they reveal the actual sail itself, which is the tapestry of number 2. So they've got to head a specific, like 10.5 miles in a specific direction or something to get to a rendezvous point with some of her peeps. So they get out there, and then we kind of see at the last minute the village pick them up, just coming off. So they engage Rover to go chase after. They realize that they've got to make a swim for it. Excuse me. And then Nadia's guy is shooting Rover. He's
Rover,
sniping Rover, and even though Rover ain't popping, Rover's not happy with these sniper bullets and actually starts to back off a little bit from these sniper bullets, which allows them to get to shore. And then Rover makes it back, right? You know, they've gone, I got to get out. I got to get out of here. I can't be compromised. So Rover heads back to the village. They're soaking wet. The plan is that they're going to go into a freight, and it will take them to Copenhagen via Danzig and then to London. Number 6's watch has been ruined swimming to shore, so he asks Nadia's Eastern European contact for his watch. So he gives him the watch, and then they get nailed into the freight. And number 6 tells Nadia that it's going to take about, 17 and a half hours to get to London. So we have all this argy-barging about. You can tell when they're going on planes, when they're on ships. There's this wonderful moment with the post office where they are getting smashed around everywhere. And you got this guy going, oi, be careful. This is meant to be fragile.
Right,
it's like smashing it everywhere. Never changed in 57 years, 53 years, never changed. And, number 6 is keeping a track on the watch, and it's almost minute perfect that he arrives in London at the colonel's office, and they're let out of the freight, and then they have Fotheringay waiting for them. They have the colonel waiting for them. Couple of what I would say were agents.
Right. But people that, number 6 now is...
Who knows?
These are all...
by name.
Knows everybody. These are all of his superiors. It's all people he's worked for. They actually are those people.
Yeah. So he's like, it's number 6 that says Colonel. And then he turns to Fotheringay, and Fotheringay is like, good to see you, old boy. And he's just like, I'll catch you later. And I'm going to debrief with the Colonel now. He says to Nadia, it's all right, you go with those 2 guys. You'll be fine. So him and the Colonel go into the office, and they have an interesting little, it starts off a relatively pleasant. Offers him a drink. He gives the work units that it costs in the village, and the Colonel's like, it's very affected as the Colonel. It's fantastic. It's just
the village.
In the village. You keep talking about the village, dear boy. What is this thing they're talking about? And Mcguinn's just like, you have to know about the village. You have to. And he's just like, look, dear boy, all I know is that one day you turn up, you resign, you vanish, and then you appear months later from the other side of the Iron Curtain. What am I meant to think, old boy?
And it's great. And he's like, and why did you resign exactly?
Yeah. So he's asking the right questions. Let's
give it a shot. Maybe we can
it's not
find
like
out.
There's anything particularly suspicious here. He's like, you got a fair point. He quits. He vanishes. He materializes from Eastern Europe months later with an Eastern European woman claiming defection. Has he gone over to the other side? Is he now a double agent? So, he's not saying anything wrong. So the Colonel's just like, look, dear boy. Let's just start from the beginning, shall we? Now then, why did you resign? So he's about to spill all the beans, and he's just like, well, you said, and then he can hear Big Ben, and he's attuned to it, of course, because Nadia's constantly spoken about Big Ben.
Absolutely.
So Big Ben goes off, and he's sort of like, okay, that's cool. And then he hears the chimes, and he's just about to talk, and then the chimes stop, and he's like, and he looks at his watch, and the Colonel's like, what's wrong there, boy? Why did you resign? He's like, it's 8 o'clock. It's like, I know, it's 8 o'clock, and the night is young. Now, come on there, boy, let's get on with this. And he's like, there were 8 chimes of Big Ben. He's like, yes? What's your point? He's like, why would there be 8 chimes of Big Ben when I took this watch from somebody in Eastern Europe when the time is 1 hour different? His watch should say 9, or there should have been 7 chimes of Big Ben.
The best laid plans, no matter how good a plan is, it's the devil is in the details.
It was the salt water getting into his own watch. So he literally tries to find wires. He finds the wire, follows the wire, boosh, in the cupboard, record player, tape recorder playing the sounds of London. And then number 6, his shoulders just sink.
I love these moments, and this one I think is my favorite. When number 6, when he realizes what has happened, and this is, I think, it's such a betrayal, because these are his own people.
Yes.
So he knows his own people are in on this. He knows that this goes a lot further than he thought. And there's such resignation. And I love how he just walks out, opens the doors, and you're in the village. You've been in the village, maybe not the whole time, but you're in the village.
I think he traveled and again came back.
In a circle, and he never turns back. He walks away.
And then
defeated.
out of the arts and craft comes Fotheringay with number 2 and Nadia. And Fotheringay is like, when's my next assignment? And McKern's just like, the Colonel will give you your next assignment when you go back to London. You better get back before any embarrassing questions are asked.
Yes.
Like, oh, yes. And then number 6, he's just walking slow. He's clearly dejected to hell.
But yeah, just shattered.
Yeah,
shattered.
Stops at and I love this imagery because they're at the top of the stairs and he's at the bottom. Perfect. They are not on an even keel.
Yeah.
They have dominated him. They have broken him in this one. They have won in this one. Just a minute detail prevented them from getting everything. And number 6 just turns, looks at them, and Nadia is looking at him with glee. There is a look in her eyes which is just played you like a fiddle. Well,
because she was successful in her mission.
Yeah. And he just says, seeing you, and then walks on. And Nadia's just like, well, I'll put in my report that, the plan was perfect. Just one little detail. And then, number 2, Kern's not fazed by this. He realizes that they had him. They absolutely had him. And, and
it wasn't Leo McKern's failure.
No, it wasn't his failure. No.
The operatives down the line, they're the ones that failed. My plan worked perfectly.
Yeah.
So there's no reprisals in Leo McKern's future.
No, because everything that he was meant to do, he did perfectly and succeeded. It's just the watch. And then we just see number 6 trudge back into his apartment. And then we had the little Nadia again in the control room with the with number 2 just saying, I'll just put all that in my report. All business to them. All business to them. And number 6 is just absolutely decimated. Thought he had it. And the worst thing, of course, from number 6's perspective is we know for sure that the West are at least in on the village.
Oh, yeah. And not just the West, but his direct superiors.
Yeah.
I mean, and indeed, maybe it is our side. And it isn't as international. But Leo McKern, as he says earlier in the episode, all sides are the same, or whatever he says. Yeah. Doesn't matter. So yeah,
I think what it was trying to say, at least this is what I think, is that I think we always thought it was somebody else.
Yes.
It can't ever be us. We're the good guys. We have this very sort of, ignorant opinion about ourselves.
Yeah.
But no, we are just as bad as everyone else who's probably in on the village. And like I said, it probably is an international haven where all the governments are in that just have, you got a problem? this is the first place it goes. So it's cracking episode.
Yeah, no, and it ends on I think one of the most cynical notes, in that you realize that there's nowhere for number 6 to go. There's nowhere to escape to, because even home is gone. Even you've been completely betrayed. You have nowhere to go. I mean, we want number 6 to break his bonds and release his shackles and escape from the village, but he can't go back home. There's no England to go back to, because where do you go? Where does a man go? And what I love about the end of this episode is it's pretty final, in the sense that every place is the same. There's nowhere to escape to. Leo McKern sets it up, saying, well, both sides are the same. And then you realize that it was, at least he knows at least that it's not just someone else. His own side sold him up the river, or down the river. I mean, he knows that now definitively. And it's soul crushing, because even in Many Happy Returns, it was the pilot, everybody else, they didn't know. It was only the pilot that snuck onto that plane. But in this case, you find out, nope, they were all in on it. My own government, whatever, sold me down the river. Which is why I think the next episode we should do is Hammer into Anvil. Okay, I completely agree. Hammer and Anvil is next. And get Cargill, who I'm positive is Cargill. Let's get Cargill as number 2. And that intertwines perfectly with Many Happy Returns. Yep. Intertwines perfectly with number 6 realizing that his own people are in on the village, his own superiors. Also, kind of ties the thread of who betrayed number 6 in Many Happy Returns. So we have that one. Yeah. So I think that would be the great homework for next week. Hammer into Anvil, which is also bloody great episode. Oh, it's a great episode. Surprise. Bloody great episode. Right. Let's go through some super chats, some questions from some people. Let's see what they have to say. We got Robert. Sorry. Indeed. Okay. Indeed. I'm ready. Rob Altis with a $5 super chat. It's odd that this episode is second in order. It clearly happens way after Arrival. Yes. That's why we've moved it. Yeah. Always had a problem with this episode being where it, not a problem with the episode, always had a problem with the episode being where it is. Absolutely. And I've always loved this episode, but I said to you early on that can we move, like we had the discussion about moving the order of these episodes. Yes. I expressed to you that I've always hated that in watch order, because whenever you show this to people, it tips off a lot of what should slowly develop over the course of the series. Yeah, and it lessens when things like Many Happy Returns, Schizoid Man. Yeah, absolutely. It lessens those episodes because he barely, with Schizoid Man, he just gets up in a helicopter and then again back down. Right. But you've already had him in London by then. Absolutely. So it loses its bit. Many Happy Returns, he gets out, but he's very much they very much understand that he will be back. Right. And also if you understand it, like if you see this up front, you realize his own people were in on it. And up until the way we've moved it, there's still hope. Even in Many Happy Returns, it's not tipped off that his people knew what was going on. They help him triangulate. He's talking to the military. Those people clearly don't know, because these are. But in this episode, no, that is definitively removed. His own people know what's up. I mean, even at the end of Many Happy Returns, when the Colonel's watching him take off, he's just saying, "There goes, a great man, right? One of my best friends," sort of thing. And, Patrick Cargill's, whatever he's called in that, he's just kind of like, yes, sir. He's very much kind of just like a government stooge. Sure. So it works perfectly that he's going to be number 2 for the next episode. Absolutely.
So yeah, you never thought that the Colonel in that episode, Donald Sinden, you never thought that Donald Sinden was a traitor. He probably hasn't a clue. He'll probably end up in the village one.
Yeah, he will. He will.
He can't by the end of Fallout, but yeah, but he would have. He would have become a prisoner. But yeah, I think we were on the same page. I think I said, oh no, I absolutely believe that Chimes of Big Ben happens way
yeah, no, and I'm glad that you did, because because people have come back to me since we started doing the show, like, why aren't you following the order? And well, let me tell you, this has bothered me for 40 years. The order of this, this we've changed it.
I think to me, it works perfect. This order, I think, has been exceptional.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even when we put our little list together, we just did it based off our kind of like gut feelings. But when we were watching the episodes, there seemed to be an organic movement into the next one that we chose.
For sure.
And that's why I'm really glad that we switched Schizoid Man and Many Happy Returns around, because I think that was the right decision to make. And get Schizoid Man before Many Happy Returns. I think that was perfect.
Yeah.
But yes, you're absolutely right, Rob. It's so weird that it is. But in Mcguinn 7, this was meant to be the 5th episode.
Right.
So it wasn't even meant to be. It wasn't even meant to be second then. So yeah, I don't think the episode was ever meant to be aired second. I think it was a network decision.
Oh, sure.
For maybe because Liam McGinn, hot Australian actor.
Yeah.
And I think maybe because it is a very espionage-y 60s man in a suitcase type of episode. They thought, this will be a great start to this series where people knew him as Danger Man. And therefore we're getting still getting Danger Man vibes. But yeah, you're quite right, sir. Shane O'Reilly with a €1 Fiddy phallic unicorn, and Gary Walker with a £1 Fiddy phallic unicorn. Thank you very much indeed, guys. Matthew Shrubsoul with 5 Australian, as the key to true freedom being so unpredictable, the system just can't force you into any kind of box without offending another. Love the original. Well, they just want him to conform. This isn't about necessarily putting you into a box. It's about putting you into the box with everyone else. This is about sheep herding, as opposed to anything sort of unpredictable. He's an individual. The individual is the unpredictable aspect of it. But again, the beauty of this episode is McKern treats him as an individual. He doesn't treat number 6 like he's just any old member of the village. He doesn't do anything like that. He treats him like John Drake, if you get where I'm coming from. Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of the irony too, is that even though he's in the village, every new number 2, everybody who comes along, he's singular. He is an individual in the way that they're treating him. The very thing that he wants, that he's fighting for, well, the powers that be, as far as the village is concerned, well, they certainly recognize him as an individual, a very special individual. And in doing so, and recognizing him that way and trying to break him, they've given him the importance that I think everybody wants in society, when everybody wants to believe that they are important. And as far as the powers that be are concerned, he's the ultimate individual, really. And it's just that they're not letting him feel that.
Is he the Superman?
I think perhaps he might very well be. Something just occurred to me as well, too. And again, being a fan of the arts, the idea that all of the artists have painted or sculpted or whittled or whatever visages of number 2, even art has been destroyed in the Village, and
Yes.
there's and you know, Patrick Mcguinn doing an abstract. Where's number 2? Like they're waiting. Even that is something that I think that kind of a commentary on art itself. And if you read like what Hitler did during World War II, the idea that he declared certain art degenerate art, it wasn't art that he liked, you know, and he had
Madonna with the big boobies.
He had to get rid of.
Would say.
Yeah, and even fascism has permeated the art world in the Village, whereas
I would say it in a much more modern way and say Oscar bait films. These films made purely to win an Oscar. They're not made for real artistic expression. They are made to appease a very select group of people.
Well, I have to disagree with you there in the sense that I do think that the people that make, like when you watch Lawrence of Arabia, I don't think David Lean was making Lawrence of Arabia as Oscar bait. I think he really did care.
But I think Milk was made as Oscar bait. And I think Forrest Gump was made as Oscar bait. Now, Forrest Gump is a beloved film, but I think you get very Oscar baity movies. Whether or not they win or not is another matter.
Right. I mean, but I do think, look, I think people get wrapped up in, you know, when Richard Attenborough made, say, Gandhi, I think people they get wrapped up in the idea of importance, you know, and I think that the idea of making films that matter, conveying stories about great people, whether it's Harvey Milk, whether it's Gandhi, whether it's T.H. Lawrence, I think the people that want to make movies like that are making films because they believe that these stories are important to tell others, to tell other human beings and to leave for posterity. And I do think people are doing them for the right reasons, because those stories, they might be Oscar bait films, but they're still compelling tales, you know, for the most part. And I think that I like Oscar bait movies. I mean, I like movies like Lawrence of Arabia, and Gandhi, I found, to me, a movie that is a perfect Oscar film is something like Amadeus, because it isn't on its surface necessarily an Oscar bait movie. You know, it's more about the idea of Salieri and Mozart and all that. It becomes an Oscar bait film because of how well it's mounted and executed. And Peter Shaffer's play in the case Amadeus is one of my favorite in terms of Oscar-winning films. One of my favorite films because it's so stylized and the portrayal of Mozart is heightened, and it's certainly not. Yeah. And I do like all of that, but you know, one of the first things that you have to get rid of, as far as fascism or any kind of totalitarianism, is you have to get rid of art. You know, you have to get rid of
burning the books.
Burning books. You have to get rid of personal expression. It's the first thing that you get rid of, and what's
happening now?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the first thing. I mean, what's really interesting to me is it's the script has been flipped. I mean, it's in the United States, especially, it's the left that has turned into the fascists, and they're burning books. They're squelching free speech. They're any kind of true intellectual discourse, and it's for me, it's fascinating to watch. It's a little frightening as well, I'm not going to lie. But you wonder, like, as far as I'm concerned, people are like, as long as you have pictures of number 2, you can create any art you want. You know, and we're there again. The prisoners, once again, even as far as art is concerned, we're there. We're right there, like they were 50 years ago. Mcguinn was saying that, you know, even art is corruptible in the Village. Even the idea of true free expression is gone even from the art world, and that's something I didn't pay much attention to, and I don't know if that was necessarily overtly one of the screenwriters.
You look at television today. Let's take Star Trek Discovery as an example, and that is a pandering product which has been admitted by Kurtzman, has nothing to do with Star Trek anymore. It's just used as a platform for their ideology. So this is very much that. You know, this is the acceptable number 2. This is, we are creating the art for the small amount of people who will say, well done. Essentially their own echo chamber.
What's interesting too, though, is this ideology, this quote unquote woke ideology, is something that has, it's fairly new to me, because, you know, if you go back and you look at things like during the civil rights movement, even Martin Luther King would say things like, I'm not African American, I'm black.
Yes.
You know, and
he's correct.
Yes, and even the people in the past that were fighting the good fight, you might call them social justice warriors, they had a much more nuanced and deeper understanding of what all of this actually meant. I feel like all of the ideologies now are so superficial.
Yes,
they're completely superficial, and nobody has a real grasp of what's happening. Like, especially
because the goalposts change constantly.
The rise of Marxism recently, everyone's talking about Marxism. I'm like, I don't think this means what you think it means. You know, Marxism isn't good. You know, anytime they've ever tried to implement it, it's gone horribly awry. Tens of millions of people died because of it. And now, you know, especially in this country, in the United States, suddenly, hey, communism is in.
But if you say the right thing on Twitter, if you express an individuality, I am a this pronoun, I am a non-binary, I am a pansexual, I am a polyamorous, as long as you have some sort of attachment that you can place onto that, then you're now part of the group. Those people, 99.9 of them, don't have a clue. Certainly don't believe in anything that they're saying or doing. It's just part of this generation's desperate attempt to be an individual by actually conforming.
Oh,
the irony is astonishing.
It is, and I guess I use the word bemused.
Yeah,
you know, I'm constantly bemused. I mean, look, they haven't come for me yet, and excuse me, they haven't come for me yet. But I mean, they did, to tell you the truth, back in June. But
yes, they did. They came for you quite hard, actually, Robert.
They came from, and it's very interesting to me, because when push comes to shove, none of these people would survive the village, you know, and there is no strength of conviction, because all of the things that people believe are quote unquote woke, it's all received. They've all been given these things that they're supposed to care about, and they've accepted them as fashion. You know, there's not any real depth of knowledge or understanding about what it is that they're fighting for. It's just the very act of fighting for something gives them satisfaction that they don't, like, you know, when people are creating art or you're writing something, you're absorbed with that kind of thing, you know. And I don't think that I think one of the problems nowadays, especially with the rise, we talk about this a lot on this show, but the rise of social media, people are literally getting external, you get a like. And I think a lot of people's political ideology or philosophy, the things that they feel, they believe it because they like getting the affirmation of belonging to that group. You know, they just want that received joy of, oh, you all do like me because we believe in the same things. Yet no one really understands what it is they believe in. They couldn't really tell you. I have to fight for these rights, and we want everybody to be treated equally, but nobody really thinks about, look, okay, well, how are we going to make that work on an institutional level?
How do you think that works? What do you think of the operating procedures on that? It's about the accepted. It's about the art has conformed. Art is about free expression. There was no free expression.
No, you got to make all art, as long as it's about number two. As long as your art's about number two, we're fine.
It's just like, ooh, I love that. Mr. Tickle Trunk with 20 Canadian. Thank you, sir. This is the guy who just wants this all day, every day. I can remember from last week. You two are helping me not to lose my mind while working. Nothing to add. Just wanted to support. Continue on. I want these discussions to go on forever. There you go. I remember it from last week on your channel. I was just like, hey, we do this every week. He's like, I know, but I need more. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Yeah, I'm just really grateful for the support on this this little venture that Robert and I are doing. It's this show has been it means so much to me. This show, there are shows which I love. There are shows which I have affinity for, characters I have affinity for, but The Prisoner means
Yes.
so much to me.
Well,
to find the kindred spirit in Robert was just beautiful.
Well, what I think is so interesting to me, I frequently on my own show, people always get mad when I talk about politics or something, and it always sort of has baffled me because to me, all of the great stories are about politics in some way, shape, or form.
Tell the story.
Yeah, it's how you tell the story, and what people what they're really saying when they're saying I don't want to talk about politics, they don't want me to talk politics because if the presidential candidate they're going to vote for is different from my presidential candidate, then they feel that we have some kind of static between us.
I would say people are scared. Not scared. Scared's the wrong word. I think people are sick and tired of partisan politics.
Right. Yes. And this is philosophical in terms of like when you're talking about political theory and what does it mean and how does it all work? I mean, how you structure a free society, if you're going to talk about that, is inherently political. And what ideologies are you going to use? And the funny thing about these shows, like when I'm talking about science fiction, fantasy, horror, or comic books or movies or TV shows, and I start discussing things like free will, I mean, these are the ways societies are structured. How do you recognize? And in the West, the great thing that the West has done is we value the individual. As every human being, the will of the individual is prized, as opposed to say an Eastern Bloc country like in the Soviet Union with the rise of communism or whatever, where the individual is destroyed for the greater good of the group. And that is that's a fundamental political idea that is at the core of this show. So you can't discuss The Prisoner without talking about it in political terms. It's impossible.
No, the Prisoner is inherently a political show, but as Chimes of Big Ben showed, it was just like, don't for 1 minute think that your side is any less dirty than anyone else.
Absolutely.
And that was the beauty of this episode. And this is the beauty of non-partisan politics. This is the beauty of in putting it out there for interpretation. There is no right or wrong. There is no good or well, there's plenty of bad, but there is no almost fairy tale good guy.
No, and that's why, the political discourse in this country, when people, I hate when people just talk about, oh, the Republicans or the Dems or you're a libtard. I'm like, really? You've first of all, you've taken all credibility away from your own opinion by speaking in those kinds of terms. And secondly, we need to have these discussions. And the fact that now whomever, look, if I was Vladimir Putin, for instance, or I was Kim Jong-un or North Korea or any totalitarian dictator, we have been played in the West. We've allowed ourselves to be, the fact that there's this kind of political division here, this is something that they're laughing their asses off at us.
Of course.
Because we when people talk about, well, there was Russian interference, there's Russian interference and disinformation every single day. And it's not just about our politics. It's about the entire Western way of life. I notice when I talk about Star Trek, I will get attacked on social media by bots somebody that has like 4 followers that just specifically designed to go after certain issues and just come after me because of something I said. You know, and that's true, by the way, of everybody. They come after everyone. And these are things that are, I mean, our way of life is under constant ideological attack by forces that don't want the West to stand united.
You could, but there again, you could argue that actually we are a product of our own demise.
That's true too.
The West, that we have grown, for want of a better term, so fat in the West, that we have been so successful that you know, people have just look behind me. I'm a regular guy. I'm not a rich guy. I'm a regular guy. You know, and but
you're rich in spirit, as
I'm rich in spirit. I'm rich in sugar. I'm rich in glucose. But you know, I've got so many comforts that are absolutely obscene. And you know, I could most of us do, you know, we think we're so oh god, I'm so downtrodden, I'm so pissed off, I'm just gonna put on my PS4. Just gonna turn on my PlayStation.
I mean, look at the rooms that we're sitting in. Both of us.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to just look at the creature comforts in here, like I need nothing that's in this room in order to survive the day.
Well, apart from the chair, would be nice. The chair and the desk would be nice.
Yeah, but I mean, it's there's nothing to do. I'm looking around at the thousands of books and collectibles and physical media. I mean, I'm sitting in a room. I can't even tell you the tens of thousands of dollars of crap that I'm surrounded by. That could probably feed families in parts of India, maybe parts of Africa for like years.
Yes,
and I mean. We live in the most privilege.
Yeah,
without nothing to do with
too dark, because
I
would like to sleep tonight if possible. But you know, I think people then try to find something to rebel against because life's good. They try and find something to be a victim about because they're accepted. You know, their color's accepted, their sexuality's accepted. Everything's accepted, but it's just like, but I want to be I want to be a snowflake. I want to be special. I want to be a victim, but I want equality, so that we have this screeching of equality by being a victim, but you're not. You're actually elevated because you're the one that controls the power, because you have the pronouns and the, you know, the so it gets it. I think you could very much argue that the West is a what's happening in the West is of our own doing.
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely is.
So yeah, I think for any part, we are just as much to blame as anyone else. You know, I don't think Kim Jong-il gives 2 fucking shits about the West. You know, I just think he gives a shit about his little world, and as long as his little world is fine, as long as he keeps the beasts at bay, you know, as long as he gets his little willy out and wiggles it and says, look at my weapons, every so often, I think he's okay. I think Western society has got to a point where we are blessed with technology. We are blessed with a standard of living that has never been had by any generation before,
ever.
And this is how people have accepted it. Some people have thrived, and some people have decided. You know, look at how many people are claimed victim that have been arrested in recent riots, shall we say? We have a very specific demographic of shaven-haired weirdo, and we have a very specific demographic of rich, pampered princess. You know, people that have come from affected families, that have got money, that have had influence or power, whatever it may be, who are looking for some shit to get involved with.
As when I went to college, I heard this term for the first time: trust fund hippies.
Trust fund hippies. That's a great one. Yeah,
trust fund hippies. And when I went to the Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington, which is a school that, as I used to like to call it, it was very crunchy, chewy granola, and it was a lot of. It was a very small college in Washington State, but it was a lot of that. It was full of, and there was a student uprising in 2017 that I could not believe. Like the school had become the exact opposite of the idea that that kids today go into academia and they want the heads of the professors of the very schools that they've spent so much time getting into. Like
all the professors want to tell you what you shouldn't be learning, or the universities will be telling you who is not allowed on campus.
This is the exact opposite of how it was when I was in school, when I went to Evergreen. I mean,
you wanted to hear the voices. You wanted to hear the other side. You wanted to understand.
We got graded. Like there were no grades. There were evaluations at Evergreen, and you were evaluated by how you participated. The whole point was that you'd go into there was like 15 students in a class, and you would seminar. You would say have read a book, and you were expected to be able to have discourse, and you would discuss with your fellow students the book, and you would see people. I saw a girl get so mad she jumped up on a table once, and the professor was allowing it. He was like, as long as you can state your position and you allow someone to retort as well, you can be as emphatic as you want. And so the whole going to school was about
the fucking desk.
It was about the exchange of ideas. You know, and there were people that hated each other, and yet we still had to learn how to speak to one another within that class. Cut to 2017, at the same time, there's a student uprising, and they want things the way they want them, and if it's not like this, we're going to take over the school. And I'm like, wait a minute, whoa, what has happened? What happened to the free flow of ideas and
social media?
Yeah, absolutely.
Social media, and the way that social media has deconstructed conversation. And destroyed conversation, because it's turned conversation into sound bites that can't be responded to correctly because you have only a sound bite to respond back with.
True.
And this is change of mind, which is coming up episode, Unmutual. That's going to be probably the most relevant episode of The Prisoner that we're going to discuss.
But the question I have for you is are there people now? Do we live in a world where people would look upon the village as being the way we should all be, and that number 6 is the disruptive element that obviously when this show has been made, we're supposed to identify with number 6. But I feel that in the society that we live in today, that people would identify more with the village.
I think there's certainly a huge proportion who would be like, why isn't number 6 conforming? Why is he doing this? Why doesn't he just say why he resigned? Why isn't he just tell? It doesn't matter. He's a part of the problem because he was a secret agent doing this, that, and the other. Yeah. He deserves to be in the village. He deserves to go through this. Let's kill him. Let's get him. Let's cancel him. Let's end him. Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter. The outrage mob. Just look at the pomposity of the Gal Gadot casting as Cleopatra, and the fake outrage, the outrage for outrage's sake that people were going into. Die, you Zionist, you fucking bitch. I hate you. You disgust me. Why are they whitening Cleopatra? Why isn't Cleopatra black? Da da da. First of all, nobody does their history anymore.
No, I mean, yes, that's.
And secondly, it's a film, and it's a film that they want to have a film star that's going to put bums on seats to make a profit. So even if Cleopatra was black and she wasn't, she was Greek. She's a little bit darker than you. She's been in a sunbed. Little bit more. That's it. It's still about selling it to the masses. How many people have been shouting about Elizabeth Taylor's Cleopatra?
People don't know there was an Elizabeth Taylor Cleopatra.
Exactly, because they don't know the history anymore. No. Because it's all about leaping onto the bandwagon. It's all about leaping onto the next thing to get mad about for mad about's sake. And then the mob justice. Again, a change of mind is going to be such a great episode to discuss.
I think it's so funny that the Gal Gadot is. I mean, Israel is in the Middle East.
She's Israeli.
She's Israeli, and that whole area of the world. It's there's a lot of the ethnicities. I mean, look, there was never. Well, I don't want to get into that whole.
But it's got nothing. Let's just cut to the chase, Robert. It's got nothing to do with the color. It's got nothing to do with it whatsoever. It's there's graceful Semitic voice out there by some people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then a lot of them, the vast majority of them, are just there to railroad, to jump on the cancellation train, because that's what Twitter is about nowadays. It's about seek a target, find a target, destroy a target. Let's hope, fingers crossed, they kill themselves. That'd be great if they did. That is now the kind of end goal of social media. There's the utter destruction. Social media is the village. So yes, the vast majority of these horrible, disgraceful people on social media would be pro-village.
Yeah.
Because that is exactly how they behave. And let's go on with a few more super chats. Larry with a $2 super sticker of a thumbs up. Thank you very much, sir. Mcguinn with a £2 super chat. Hail as an RMB. Is it true, this is for you, that you worked on Leatherface?
Yes, I did. Right out of film school, what he's referring to is Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Right, yes.
That was the first movie I ever worked on. I was the art department production assistant. I actually have my name is in the credits, of the movie. And I was 22 years old, and it was amazing. It was an amazing experience to work on that first film. Ken Foray, one of the stars of the movie, starred in Dawn of the Dead. Viggo Mortensen, Aragorn himself, was on that movie, and directed by Jeff Burr and written by my good friend David Scow, who also went on to write like The Crow. And he was a novelist that I'm still a novelist, so I'm a big fan of. And then he went on to write a movie called The Hills Run Red that I produced.
Yes.
And I loved working on Leatherface was a joy. Unfortunately, the film ran afoul of the ratings board. And I think New Line saw it as their new. I worked on I didn't really work on it, but the art department from Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, moved over to Leatherface. So I got to be on the set of Nightmare 5 and watch that film being shot, like the motorcycle transformation thing. It was great. But I think New Line thought that, we're going to make Leatherface just like Freddy Krueger, and, a cannibal family that kills human beings. There's not a whole lot of fantasy element there. So I think New Line miscalculated about the franchise they had. So it wasn't until the Matthew McConaughey, Renee Zellweger Texas Chainsaw movie that happened way after Leatherface that they were able to revive that franchise. So yes, the short answer is yes, I did work on it. And it was fantastic. I got many stories about working on that movie. It was amazing.
Mark C with a $5 super chat. Ever notice that your voice has a little bit of Leo McKern in it?
Didn't I say that at the beginning of the show?
Yeah, Robert said that at the beginning of the show, which is weird because Leo McKern is actually Australian. So maybe Leo McKern's English impression, because when he's being interviewed, he does have a very strong Australian accent as Leo McKern. Still has that very boisterous kind of tone to it, but he's got that very specific Australian element to his voice. And Mcguinn was going crazy type of thing. Darth DJJD with a $5 super chat heard that the "Be Seeing You" salute was a sign of the fish represents Christ. What the early Christians used as a private sign in the Roman Empire. I would have to look at that.
Yeah,
look that up to see if there was any validity to that. But that would be fascinating if it'd be fascinating if it was.
Yes, it would.
Because that would certainly open up a whole new debate about certain elements. Oh my God. The village is the Church of England. Or is the village the papal see? Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, and then the whole religious aspect of this, that's very interesting.
Mark C, again with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mark. Speaking of art critics, have either of you ever seen Art School Confidential?
Oh, yes.
They absolutely nail the classroom critique sessions.
Oh, yes, I have. I love that. And they did nail the critiques.
GG. I've never seen it. I couldn't.
You would like it.
Okay.
You would like it.
Okay. Grandpappy Fisk with a $3 super chat. I really like your shirt, Robert. Rachel.
Oh, it is Rachel. Yes, indeed.
Do androids dream of electric sheep? Or Blade Runner to the uncultured?
Right. Yes.
The books. Do androids dream of electric sheep?
Yep.
Mark C with $20 super chat. Mark, again, thank you, sir. Forget Oscar bait films think about the deluge of films and television that is agenda-based with little to no entertainment value. Star Trek Discovery. Add it to California, still under lockdown, and welcome to the village, Robert. Yes, well, I mean, that's what I was talking about. I mean, Kurtzman himself specifically said it's not about Star Trek anymore. It's about using it as a platform for the message. And to me, if I was at CBS, my next thing would be, "Hi, Alex. Hi, you're fired." And then I would have got somebody on board that was actually willing to, create the genius that was old Trek.
Hey, well, how about, as hope springs eternal, perhaps the third season of Star Trek Discovery is going to be exemplary. And we might want to do shows like this about the third season of Discovery, after all. It could happen.
When does it start? This week?
It starts, yeah. I guess it goes on. Maybe by midnight tonight, it'll be on CBS All Access. And I only know that the opening sequence of season 3, they show this space battle, already made me want to scoop my eyeballs out with a teaspoon. I was like, did somebody hit generic space battle? Why, yes, they did.
Well, yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
Is it oh God, don't tell me do they warp in and it hits a dead body? Or is that
no,
that
they're having a battle and she Burnham warps in and it hits her.
Get out and walk back in again and keep doing it till she isn't fucking alive.
I mean, I looked at this and I just was like,
oh my God.
Yeah, well,
remember when number one, remember when there were deflector dishes? Do you know why there are deflector dishes? Kurtzman, do you know what the purpose of a deflector dish is? No. Okay.
Why do you think that they're so prominent on starships, aside from the USS Reliant, which we have to figure it? Maybe there's new technology.
I don't think Discovery's got a deflector.
No, it does at the bottom. It's got that little. It's got a navigational deflector, but the idea, Look, the ship
run into stuff.
Yeah, it's yeah.
I think I would rather eat my own heart than talk about this guy. I couldn't. I got halfway through season 1. I was done. I've never been done with Star Trek like that. Never. It was halfway through season 1, and I was already 3 or 4 episodes above my tolerance of where I wanted to be. And it's like, hey, we're going on Christmas break now. I was like, done. Great.
I mean,
it was horrific. The show was horrific.
The Star Trek Discovery opens with 2 women walking in the desert,
yes,
creating a Starfleet insignia in the sand,
yes,
during a windstorm.
Yes,
during a windstorm, and apparently the sand doesn't move to the point they can draw a huge, Delta shield, the insignia.
Yeah,
and their starship sees it from orbit.
Yes,
to find out where they are, and comes out of the clouds to rescue them. By the way, that was not in the original draft of that script. That was not in the Vulcan Hello. I don't know where they came up with that, but I had a real problem. I'm like, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in a science fiction movie or television show ever. Here comes my starship into the sky to rescue me. They're in orbit, but they apparently saw, maybe they're in geosynchronous orbit. So if they didn't know where we were already, they certainly could see us making that'd be like, it's just so stupid.
I think it's when I saw the Klingons for the first time. I think my eyes rolled so far back that I was actually looking at my brain. I couldn't. The worst thing is the dialogue. I just can't handle the dialogue.
Yeah,
and I shouldn't, as a relatively sane individual, I shouldn't just want to smash the faces in with a lead pipe until I'm covered in their goo. I really shouldn't have that sort of feeling. But every time they open up their fucking mouths, I want to do it to all of them. All of them. I just want to keep smashing until there's nothing left. Nothing left of them. Which is stark contrast, because I distinctly remember the first episode I watched of Next Generation was just being fascinated by these amazing characters.
Yeah.
Isn't this captain like really kind of stern and strict and by the book? And, this second officer's, he's trying, but he's like, And then you got this gorgeous chancellor. And look at that blind dude with the visor. How cool does that visor look? And a Klingon is on a starship, and who doesn't want to bang Tasha Yar, just bend her over the fucking... And it was just like fascinated by these characters. I saw Tilly, I just wanted to fucking stick her in an airlock and press fuck off. Fuck off, woman.
Well, she certainly didn't belong on that starship.
She didn't belong in Starfleet. She didn't belong in... fucking math science is great. Fuck yeah. Smash the face until it's unrecognizable and I'm covered in brain, which wouldn't be a lot of brain, let's just be honest. I think I might pass on the Discovery.
I
shortest dreams in the world.
Yeah, I can't help it. I have an obligation to myself to you know what? I've never believed in self-flagellation, but now I understand the appeal of it because it really clears your mind of things like rage. I watch an episode of Star Trek Discovery and it just makes me angry, and I get to purge all of that because when it's over, I'm like, oh, I feel better. It is my self-flagellation. It's me kneeling down with the whip. Clearing my mind.
Certain shows I can try to do that on. I got through the first season of Batwoman. Other people couldn't. And I got through it on rage and anger alone. But when you have that, there are only so many shows that you can do that on before you lose your sanity.
It's true.
And with Discovery, with how much I love Star Trek, like I said, I got 7 episodes in or something. And I realized if I continue to watch this show, there are going to be lots of broken monitors. I'm just going to be punching a screen. I'm just going to be flipping keyboards. I'm going to be smashing fucking shit all over. Because this show is going to drive me mad. And so there are times where I got to say, sir, it is time to hand this to you and let you take this one. Because I can't. I am unable to.
Well, that might be me. I mean, I'm giving Discovery season 3 1 episode, and then I'm like, I'm gonna tap out.
I'm giving Batwoman season 2 1 episode. In all fairness, but I watched. I tried to watch Lower Decks, and I got 1 episode 8 minutes in, and I was done. Done. Couldn't watch anymore. Couldn't do it. Can't do it. Mr. Tickle Trunk with another 20 Canadian. Thank you, sir. As Babylon 5 podcast with people when so much of what you talk about in The Prisoner is there as well in a much longer form. Make my year. Do you want to know something? Never watched Babylon 5.
What?
Never watched it.
Oh, well, I will say this: the first season is a little rough to get through. Babylon 5 is excellent. The seasons 2, 3, and half of 4, they had to curtail something they had to bring to a conclusion something that was going on for 2.5 years because they didn't know the disposition of the series. But and another thing about Babylon 5 now that's hard to watch is the visual effects because they're low res CGI. It was the first CGI, so it's tough. But once you settle in, the storyline's amazing. And they're one of the two things I think in science. Well, two things. There are two characters, Londo Mollari and Jakar, these two alien ambassadors. The characterizations of those two alien ambassadors are some of the two best characterizations that have ever appeared on science fiction television, especially in the case of Andreas Katsoulis, who is the Romulan who plays Tomalak on Next Generation. The Romulan commander, the recurring Romulan commander. He plays his character Jakar, who's a Narn, who's like a lizard, a race of lizard creatures, people. And the transition that he goes through, you think he's just a bastard when you meet him, and then the transition he goes through, his character transition when he becomes an incredibly noble, tragic figure, it's amazing. And you would really like Babylon 5, I think. But it is tough to watch now. And the first season's hard. Yeah.
I mean, I'm watching Enterprise, and let's be honest, the Enterprise CGI it's not holding up well.
Oh, dude, Babylon 5 is like, compared to Enterprise, it's like watching kindergarten render.
Right, okay. Well, hey, I'm more interested in good story than, I understand the product of its time in terms of technology, at least.
This one's really dated, though.
Oh boy, we'll see. I'll watch the first episode. I'll give you a.
Yeah.
Well, the first.
There's actually a movie. They made a TV movie first, so watch that and see what you think.
All right, like Battlestar Galactica. Well, they made a miniseries, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then they did the. Mr. Ticklepink again with another 5 Canadian. Politics should be treated like a salad bar, not sports or an arm race. It should be just a topic that some people want to discuss. It shouldn't be the be all and end all that it's suddenly turned into be, mainly because it's infected every facet of, entertainment and whatever. It just feels like you can't escape the damn thing. And I don't care. I don't care for politics too much. I just want to get on with my shit.
Right.
I want to watch my shows. I want to have a good time. I don't want Kurtzman telling me that my Star Trek is over now because he wants to fucking bleat about his politics. Fuck off, you selfish, self-absorbed narcissist. You're basically saying I'm taking away this fandom because of my personal ideology. You selfish bastard.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything more selfish. Tactical is Practical 10 with 5 Canadian. Today's rebels. Oh, we got to wrap up. We are over.
Yeah.
Are suffering from boredom and lack of hard work. Yeah, lack of hard work for sure. Tyrion Razar with a 2 US. Hail Robert and Az. You are both great men. Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Julius Goodwin with a $20 super chat as well. No message, just a $20 super chat. Thank you, Julius. Supporter of the prisoner stream. So really
I'm actually drinking wine that was provided to me by Julius Goodwin.
Oh,
he's the official sommelier of my YouTube channel.
Ooh,
for real.
Nice. So when you do your whining about movies,
yes, we were doing it last night, and Julius provided the wine for that episode.
Boosh. Nice. Maybe I'll get myself a bottle of plonk. Manowar 665 with a $10 super chat. Rob, the shipping on that cask of wine, you'll need to persuade Az to make it through another season of stalled wreck. It's going to put you in the poorhouse. It's a nice wine. I can't. I think I'm even more damaged because I think Picard fooled me. The first episode, I was like, okay, and then after that, it was just like, just Picard face palms every episode.
Oh, that show the utter. I've never seen the destruction of a fictional character
Oh.
so devastating as the first season of Picard was.
It was. This is why I'm always going to subscribe to my 3 Picard theory, and it works. I can watch Next Gen without influence, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah,
because there are some people that say I can't even watch Next Gen anymore, and that's
no, I can watch Next Gen. My girlfriend and I have been watching it again. You finished earlier than we did. We're approaching the end of the 7th season.
Oh, Good Things is so good.
Yeah, we watched Sub Rosa and Lower Decks.
Lower Decks, yeah.
What a great episode that you watch Lower Decks and you're like, why not make that show? I mean, I understand they're making a wacky animated series, but the Lower Decks episode packs such a gut punch at the end. It's such an emotional conclusion. And what they did with Ensigncito that was introduced back in the first duty, it's amazing.
Yeah, considering how she was introduced and how she ended. And there's sort of double whammy because she was kind of like he's the one who's always willing to give people a chance. He might not show it to you, but he is. He did it with Barclay. He's done it with Ensign Rowe. He does it with all the misfits, all the ones you think he should actually be in conflict with. He's the one behind the scenes that's like, give them a go, work with them, try and engage them.
And that scene when he dresses her down, and then when she comes back and he admits to her, I requested you on this ship.
Yes,
and you're like, wow, okay, that's Star Trek.
Yeah,
that's Star Trek.
And he only dressed her down because he wanted to see her reaction. He wanted to see how she would respond.
And then also Worf. When Worf was forging, he makes her take a blindfold, put on a blindfold and attack me. Come after me. And he makes it up. And he's trying to explain to her, don't back down so quickly when somebody dresses you down.
Yeah.
So you've got both Worf and Picard. It's such a great episode that shows them both how do you shape young minds, developing. It's such an amazing episode of Star Trek, and then we get a TV series with the same name that doesn't come anywhere near that episode, which is unfortunate. Sad. You okay there? Do you need a pat on the back?
I need a moment. The guy go with a 5 Canadian super. I just wanted to put them in an airlock and press fuck off. Jesus Christ, I'm stealing that. I'm still giggling. The guy. It's every time. It is because look, I mean, I could speak with Robert for literally no hyperbole for literally days about Star Trek. We could we could talk about the greatness of it, the greatness of the characters, the greatness of the stories, the situations, the non-bias of it, the way that it would always offer an alternative, the right, what seemingly is right is not necessarily right, the tough decisions sometimes, all these different aspects, which you can still debate 30, 40 years later. And here we are, and you just nowadays have the most superficial. No, it's worse than superficial. You have television which is actually degrading and patronizing because it treats the audience as if they're fucking stupid.
Which is so odd because the other TV that we are seeing, we're in a golden age of television now, and that Star Trek isn't part of that golden age of TV is incredibly disheartening.
Yeah, I mean, it's because the wrong people are there, and I mean, I don't understand Kurtzman's. That guy is a history of failure, and it's a history of failure upwards. And I just do not. Well, I mean, it speaks volumes about Hollywood, I guess.
Right.
That this guy can create misfire, flop after flop after flop, and be rewarded with more and more and more. What I don't understand is you want money? No? Okay. The Richard with the $5 super chat. What the hell is the Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival, Robert?
Oh, I see what the Richard's setting me up here. I see what he was. It was like it's like a volleyball game on the beach. So for those of you who don't know, yes, my channel, the Burnett Work, is sponsoring the world's first Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival, and it is open to everyone. And I encourage now through December 1st, anybody can send me a movie of any kind. You can make any kind of film that you want. The only rule is it has to be unique, and it has to be a universal premiere. And every day, it looks like I just got 2 more films in since we've been on this show. I've received 2 more movies, and we're showing films, and we're encouraging anybody who wants to make a film to go make a film. And we had first a poster contest, which you vote on, and the poster contest ends tomorrow, picking a winner. And the film festival is going to be going through December 1st, so you have up until December 1st to make to submit your entry. And I'm getting films from all over the world so far, and it's kind of amazing, and all different skill sets and abilities. And there are cash prizes, and we have celebrity judges. The first judge that I've announced is Ashley Edward Miller, who wrote X-Men, First Class, and Thor. And he was a producer on Black Sails. He was a producer on Fringe. He was a producer on Lore, the Amazon series. And he's currently producing and created a new upcoming adult anime series for Netflix that I've actually been working on. Ooh. And I've got many other judges to announce. And our first cash prize is for best on-screen performance. It's a $200 cash prize, and you get a trophy as well. So we're going to have, I think, 10 awards. So it's kind of fun. So that's what it is. And you're all invited to make a film of any kind. They're all different. And if you go to the Burnett Work channel on YouTube, you can see the entries so far that we've received. And there's a world premiere. There was a world premiere today, and there's a world premiere tomorrow. And there's going to be a world premiere on Friday. It looks like Saturday and Sunday. So we might be dropping a film every day.
Nice.
And I think one of the ones that's exciting, since you're in the UK, we got a film from Ireland. Nice. Called Crawl Space. That is a pretty effective, nasty little piece of work. It's only 3 minutes long. So check it out. Ooh. Check it out. Love the Irish.
Ooh. J-More1 with a $10 super sticker of a flying super pair. The Geiger's back again with 2 Canadian. Babylon 5 with Rob. Please, please, please. We got a special something planned after The Prisoner. It's a one episode, but we've got a special.
We think it's going to be a one episode.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely not going to get everything in one episode, so maybe there could be more. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting discussion. The Geiger with again with 5 Canadian. Mr. Burnett, I hereby knight you. Your first charge is to hold Az down and force him to watch Babylon 5. As is Sol Garibaldi, he'll love Bester. This means.
Yeah, well, Garibaldi is one of the main characters, and Bester is played by Walter Koenig, Chekhov from Star Trek.
Okay, Chekhov.
He plays part of the well, you think they're evil, but the mysterious Psi Corps. He is Bester's an agent of the Psi Corps.
Whatever.
Yeah, very much like Section 31, but
31
even more mysterious.
Section 31, who in Kurtzman's Star Trek universe wear badges.
They wear badges, and they have headquarters and spaceships, and you know where they are. So, like,
we're the Secret Service. You're not fucking secret, you dumb cow.
How do you have such a misunderstanding of what Section 31 is supposed to be? The great thing about Section 31, it was just one guy. You never knew who he represented or how big they were or wherever, and he would just show up and talk to you and disappear. Yeah, it was amazing. And the fact that now they've given Section 31 a base. That was one of the,
uniforms, badges, bases, ships,
membership cards. Hey, are you Section 31? Shh. But you've got that black comm badge. Shh.
And you're wearing the uniform and your ship that's docked in our... Ah!
So dumb. So dumb.
Kurtzman. Do not go past go. Do not collect $200. Russ Who with a $10 super chat. Thank you. Just thank you, they say. Oh, thank you, Russ. JMorph1 with a $5 super chat again. Yes, Az needs to see Babylon 5. Okay, I'll watch the first episode. Right. And Tactical is Practical with 5 Canadian. The best part of STD are the commercials. I can probably attest to that. So let's wrap it up here. We're going to slightly over again.
I love how it's devolved into Star Trek chat.
I know.
I love it.
Yeah, but yeah.
Love it.
Well, it devolved into current Star Trek chat, which is good.
Yeah.
Robert, massive thank you for coming around again. Next week, are we in agreement of Hammer into Anvil?
Ooh, a great episode. Yes, we are in agreement.
Hammer into Anvil. That's going to be over on Robert's channel next week, 8 p.m. UK time, midday Pacific, over at the Burr Network. Go subscribe. Go there now. My mods have been plopping the links into the description throughout the show. So massive thank you to my mods for being spectacular. Thank you, everybody who's fired a super chat in as well, and everyone who's turned up to watch tonight. I might be back later tonight with a bit of World of Warcraft.
I am not coming back on my own show today. I'm not doing my own show. I was going to do my own show. I'm not, but I am on a different stream today. So
plug.
Let me get to the. I will tell you what that is. I have to put on my glasses and read because I am on the Nicotina show. I'm on the Nicotina show, and that'll be on at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time.
Okay.
So I've never been on the Nicotina show.
The Nicotina show.
The Nicotina show. As a matter of fact, maybe I don't know much about the Nicotina show. They asked me to be on it. I'm like, I'll be on your show, sure. So it's the Nicotina at Nicotina NICKATINA _show on Twitter. So that's where you can find it.
Yeah, my mods plural tonight has been Purple Valkyrie. She's been doing it all on her own. God bless her. I use the royal mods. So yeah, I'll be very specific and say thank you very much indeed for all your hard work tonight, sweetheart. You're absolutely fantastic. I might be back. I might not, but I might be back with a little bit of Wowcraft today. If not today, probably tomorrow. We'll check out the new patch, see if there's anything worth looking at. And then for me, Friday Night Tights, I'm going to be doing the next 3 weeks in a row.
Ooh.
Because Odin has had his son, Thor. So I'm going to be filling in for Odin on his on my what would be my time off. Saturday here, 6 p.m. UK time. I'm going to be doing some Warhammer painting with Nick Ricada from the Ricada lore. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun taking a piss as stupid people. So Robert, I will see you next Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
Over on your channel with another absolute blinder of an episode.
Hammer into Anvil. What a great title, too.
I know. Do Mos Ambos order hammer sign? Maybe. You take care. Be seeing you.
Be seeing you. It's a
Bye
salute, you know.